Donald Trump, a name synonymous with real estate, casinos, and reality television, stormed the political landscape promising to use his business acumen to revitalize the American economy. His supporters saw him as a master negotiator, a tough-talking dealmaker who could outsmart China, revive manufacturing, and bring back jobs. His detractors, however, viewed his policies as reckless, likely to benefit the wealthy at the expense of the working class. Trump's rhetoric resonated with a segment of the population disillusioned with traditional politicians and yearning for a Washington outsider. He spoke their language, or at least a version of it amplified for television, promising to make America great again. His direct, often abrasive communication style, a departure from the polished pronouncements of career politicians, struck a chord with voters who felt unheard and unseen. Trump's background, however, was a far cry from the average American's. Born into wealth, he built his empire on construction projects, high-end properties, and a carefully crafted public persona. His business dealings were often shrouded in controversy, marked by bankruptcies, lawsuits, and accusations of shady practices. Despite this, his supporters remained steadfast in their belief that he could transfer his supposed business prowess to the Oval Office and deliver on his economic promises. A cornerstone of Trump's economic agenda was a pledge to slash regulations, which he argued were strangling businesses and hindering growth. He targeted environmental protections, financial regulations, and healthcare rules, arguing that reducing government oversight would unleash economic dynamism. The rollback of environmental regulations, particularly those related to climate change, drew fierce criticism from environmental groups and scientists. They warned of dire consequences from increased pollution to accelerated climate change, arguing that short-term economic gains would be outweighed by long-term environmental damage. In the financial sector, the dismantling of Dodd-Frank regulations, enacted after the 2008 financial crisis, raised concerns about a return to risky lending practices and another economic meltdown. Critics argued that deregulation would benefit Wall Street at the expense of Main Street, increasing the likelihood of another financial crisis. Tax cuts formed another pillar of Trump's economic policy. He argued that reducing taxes, particularly for corporations and high earners, would stimulate investment, create jobs, and boost economic growth. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, a signature legislative achievement, slashed corporate tax rates from 35% to 21%, and provided significant tax breaks for businesses and individuals. While proponents argued that the tax cuts would pay for themselves through economic growth, critics countered that they would primarily benefit the wealthy and corporations, exacerbating income inequality and ballooning the federal deficit. The tax cuts did lead to a surge in corporate profits and stock buybacks, but their impact on wages and job creation was less clear-cut. On trade, Trump adopted a protectionist stance, imposing tariffs on goods from China, Mexico, and other trading partners. He argued that these tariffs were necessary to protect American jobs and reduce the trade deficit. However, the trade wars he ignited led to higher prices for consumers and businesses, disrupted supply chains, and created uncertainty in the global economy. Trump's economic policies, despite their controversial nature, resonated with a significant segment of the American electorate. His message of economic nationalism, promises of job creation, and attacks on global trade deals appealed to voters in Rust Belt states hit hard by manufacturing decline and globalization. His supporters, many of whom felt left behind by the economic changes of recent decades, saw him as a fighter for the forgotten man, someone who would stand up to China, bring back jobs, and restore America's economic dominance. His detractors, however, viewed his policies as reckless, likely to benefit the wealthy at the expense of the working class, and damaging to the environment. The long-term impact of Trump's economic policies remains to be seen. His supporters point to low unemployment rates and a booming stock market as evidence of his success. His critics argue that these gains were built on a foundation of unsustainable debt, environmental damage, and widening inequality. Only time will tell what the true legacy of Trump's economic experiment will be,